monkeys how a machine can stimulate the brain to replicate the sensation of touch. The results are due to be presented at a conference in Brazil later on Thursday. Miguel Nicolelis led the study. He's professor of neuroscience at Duke University.
The animal is using a brain-machine interface to control a virtual hand. The virtual fingers of this hand are, pressing across virtual surfaces that the monkey cannot see. There is no visual cue on how rough or how smooth these surfaces are. The monkey has to find that by touching with his brain-controlled virtual arm or virtual fingers. In 2011, we were able to send small packets of electrical pulses back to the brain and show that the monkeys could use this information to identify which one was the rougher surface of the three surfaces that they had to touch in virtual space. But what happened now in this paper this week is that for the first time we are showing that we can send continuous electrical pulses and mimic the way we normally use our fingertips to touch surfaces. The functions that we obtain in terms of performance, behavior performance and discrimination that the monkeys achieved are very similar in shape to the functions that humans show when they're touching textures. And the beauty of it is a continuous loop. The brain of the subject generates commands to move the virtual hand. The virtual hand sends electrical pulses back to the brain to detect the texture of the surface. Everything is done without the interference of the body, of the subject's body.
Is that monkey in that experiment actually feeling a rough surface and a smooth surface?
Well, yes, he's feeling, I cannot tell, of course, because I wasn't able to discuss that with them, but they certainly feeling, I couldn't chat with them. I tried, but it wasn't that great. But the interesting thing is that they behave like they are actually perceiving the difference between rough and smooth.
I guess the next stage of this experiment then is to do it with humans, and then who obviously you can talk to, and then they'll be able to give you even more feedback.
In the future, when this is done in humans, of course, we'll be able to inquire our subjects, what are the feelings, what are the sensations they're experiencing. And I think that as this thing progresses, we are going to be able to get answers like, well, I'm feeling something like texture. I'm actually identifying the texture of this object that I'm touching.
So the practical applications of this are enormous.
Oh, they're tremendous, because people forget that when we have a spinal cord injury, it's not only paralysis that becomes a huge problem. You basically lose any sensation, any tactile sensation below the level of the spinal cord injury. And for your brain, as time goes by, the brain becomes, basically thinks that you don't have a body below that level of the lesion anymore, that your body has simply vanished. So the sense of self is contracted. It is basically, if you have a quadriplegic patient, for instance, that have a high cervical lesion, the only thing left for the sense of self of that patient is the head and the neck. So what we saw in our paraplegic patients is that as they recover mobility, as they practice with the brain-machine interface, the sense of self also expanded to the territories of the body in which they had regained sensation. So restoring tactile feedback to these patients is fundamental. It's very important, because it's one of the most important driving forces, not only for the process of plasticity, but also for the expansion of the sense of self.
Miguel Nicolelis there, who led that study, is Professor of Neuroscience at Duke University.
Paul, just an update here on Turkey from Reuters News. Reuters television saying that the Turkey's border with Syria was calm on Thursday morning regarding that military offense in northern Syria where the Turkish president